It's time now for your weekly fishing reports and real-time outdoor news from the Southwest region. This is Fox Sports Outdoors Southwest.
Some anglers over in the southeastern parts of our region call them crappies. In the southwest part of our region, they're known as crappie. Our Cajun friends down in South Louisiana call them white perch or sac-a-lait. But by whatever name you call the crappie, it is by far one of the most prolific and sought-after game fish species across the southern half of the United States. Hello everyone, and welcome in to your Fox Sports Outdoors for this week. And on today's show, we're going to give you some techniques, some gear, and some methods that you can use headed into the warm summer weather months to go out and catch you a basket full of great tasting, great eating crappie. Now, if you've been paying attention to our show the last few weeks, you'll notice that we've been concentrating on a technique called long lining. It's a trolling technique, and if you missed those, go watch them on our YouTube channel. Very interesting. We're going to be showing you a very different method to locate and catch them on today's show. And while we're doing that, we are taking you around the region for your latest fishing reports on your local lakes, rivers, and bays from our expert team of insider reporters. Now, in order to test tube this thing out and demonstrate these techniques for you, we're bringing you to a lake in central Texas. It's called Navarro Mills Lake. It's an old lake, been here since the early 60s. Not an overly large lake, but it's a great demonstration because it's loaded with lots of crappie. So we're gonna get the Nitro Z8 launched into Navarro Mills, get started fishing, and right now let's get this thing started by taking you back to the FSN studios for your weekend planner.
Memorial Day is coming at a great time for anglers, with the Salooner tables predicting some of the best fishing of the month to take place on the holiday. Look for peak game fish activity to start a couple of hours after sunrise on Monday, with good overall conditions forecast for the day. Expect the sun to rise at 6:23 and set at 8:25, and we'll have a crescent moon that is 17% visible in the evenings. We're coming right back with all the current freshwater and coastal fishing information from around the Southwest. Plus, Kevin Van Dam joins us on the Waterburger Ask the Pro.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low price, every day. By Mercury Marine, celebrating 75 years of marine excellence. By Stren Fishing Lines, the standard of dependability. By Tracker Boats, it's more than just a boat, it's a tracker. And by Fort Worth Nissan. Fox Sports Outdoors is powered by Fort Worth Nissan.
Got him. Yeah, we got one. First thing here, look here. I bet it's a crappie. It's a good one too. Oh, big crappie. Big crappie. Look at this dude. Don't jump, don't jump, don't jump, don't jump. Got him. Oh yeah, look at that toad. All right, here's what's happening. That's the shoreline where the crappie spawned earlier this spring. Then what's happened is these fish have transitioned out and they're just roaming out here in flat, open water. There's no brush, no cover, no logs, no grass, and they're real finicky. What I'm having to do is swim that bait across the top of the fish I see. And I'm watching my graph, 8, 10 feet of water, something like that, on my Lowrance HDS 12 back there, my best screen. And I'm actually watching for bait fish. When I see that bait fish, I'm casting this little swim jig across there. That's a Bobby Garland. I'll show you that at the end, but I'm using one with a little swim tail on the back of it. And I'm gently coming back in on a slow, steady retrieve. For the most part, crappie will not go down for a bait. If you're fishing underneath the fish, typically they won't swim down. But if you swim it across the top of them, they will bite it. One other thing I did is I moved out and caught some fish off a brush pile, and the fish were not down in the brush. In the summertime, I'll be fishing straight up and down vertically in the brush and be pulling straight up out of that thick stuff. Right now, they're not. They're swimming around, free swimming the outside edges of the brush. So again, you got to take that little swim jig and gently swim it across the top of those fish, and they'll come up and eat it. That, my friend, is a good frying size crappie right there. And let's get you started with some fishing reports to Louisiana with Cajun Phil and Kevin.
Captain Kevin and I just got back from South Louisiana. We had a HT redfish tournament down in Fourchon, Louisiana. That's about as far down there as you could get. That's pretty close to Grand Isle. While there, we spent 3 or 4 days with T-Man and Penny Sherman. Kevin and I went out with T-Man in the little marsh right there behind his house, and I tell you what, we caught some redfish and a whole bunch of big redfish. We caught them on gold spoons. That's T-Man's favorite bait out there, by the way. But during the practice time, we also went east a little further to a place called Port Sulphur. There, Kevin and I found a big old redfish, heavy vegetation, lots of moss, lots of that old green slime. We were throwing a Rockport Rattler swim bait hook, the weighted hook with a real light weight on it. We also throwing the Bass Assassin plastic behind it. I tell you what, we jumped on the big old redfish and we just had an awesome, awesome tournament. We placed 6. While down there though, we talked to some guys from Port Sulphur that was actually catching lots of bass. They were going further north. They were actually fishing just south of Lafitte, Louisiana. They were catching bass on small spinner baits, single spin spinner baits. We also talked to some other anglers that was down there. They happened to be redfishing, but they said they just got back from the Henderson Swamp. He said at the Henderson Swamp, they catch them also on small spinner baits, beetle spins, and also small, tiny crankbaits. They were throwing a Strike Pro crankbait. They said they wanted one that didn't run but about a foot deep.
Bobber down. Got him. Oh, he's burying my bobber down. There he comes up. Good crappie. Good crappie right there. All right, big one. Look at that big dude. All right, hey, welcome back everybody. Fox Sports Outdoors today. Talking crappie fishing, heading into the warm summertime months. That's a big fat one right there. And this is perfect to demonstrate what I want to show you here. I've been talking about open water techniques here. Let me show you something. We're going to pan the camera around. This is where the crappie spawn, right here, up in all this shallow, weedy, grassy, thick stuff right in there. That's all spawning territory. But after those fish finish spawning, they migrate back out here. They're going to head out to some deep trees and brush piles and that kind of thing, but in between is that transition time, and these fish will just get out in open water and free swim. I threw that bait probably 40 or 50 feet out away from the shore, and it drops off to about 8 feet of water out there, and that's prime territory for these transition fish as they're just roaming around out there. All they're doing is feeding on bait. That dude's got a fat little belly right there because he's been out there eating little minnows and threadfin shad and little crawfish, that kind of thing. Perfect way to try to catch these fish when you're headed into the summertime months. They don't have to be on brush and cover. They can just be free swimming out there in the middle of nowhere. You just got to get out and make a lot of casts, cover a lot of water. Now that one hit my slip bobber rig. I'm going to show you that up close a little bit later, but it is perfect for catching these fish that are in this open water transition area that are suspended up off the bottom. They're not down on the bottom. This is a great way to catch them. All right, let's get you started off with some fishing reports here. And let's start off in Texas with Brian Hughes in freshwater and Bill Olson on the coast. And that one's going in my life.
Hi folks, this week's Lone Star Lakes is brought to you by Deck, makers of the most innovative truck bed storage system ever. Now we're on Lake Fork, home of the Texas Bass Classic, where Keith Combs just won for an unprecedented 3rd time with a 3-day bag limit over 110 pounds for a new record catch. Now, if you'd like to come out to Lake Fork and experience catches like that, there's a few things you need to know. First, start your morning up shallow, look for timber and grass together. And this is not the Lake Fork of old. Grass is not topping out just everywhere. You'll have to look for it. When you find it, work your buzzbaits, spooks, and yellow magics over the top, your Cincos and flukes around the edges, and drop your jigs right in the pockets. That's the formula for picking up big bass on fork. You may also want to take those jigs to deeper creek channels where the mouth of the creek meets a long sloping point. That'll work as well, along with, of course, your big 10-inch worms on that same sloping point / creek channel. That's this week's Lone Star Lakes, brought to you by Deck. Now let's check in with Mr. Bill Olson. He's on the coast.
Hi folks, this week's report is brought to you by Port Aransas on Mustang Island, the fishing capital of Texas. where anglers enjoy pristine bays, estuaries, 18 miles of surf, and the deep blue waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Plus, the local restaurants will even cook your catch come sundown. Come fish and play Texas Island style. For more information, visit portaransas.org. Well, fishing and reports on fishing have been inconsistent. Anglers are scratching out a few fish here and there. However, normal patterns continue to run at least 3 to 4 weeks behind schedule. Inconsistent sums up a lot of things that are going on the Texas coast. Weather has certainly been inconsistent. Last week, a strong late season cold front combined with a full moon have kept tides inconsistent. Now on the mid-coast behind St. Joe and Mustang Island, redfish are in the back lakes and sloughs while trout are scattered. Reports from Sabine question whether there was enough rain to put some fresh water into the rivers and drop salinity levels and move fish back into the bays. That is why the south end of the lake has had the most consistent bite. Now in West Matagorda Bay, anglers are hoping some fresh water coming down the Colorado River will also have a positive impact. Right now, the shell of East Matagorda and the grass beds of West Matagorda have the best bite. San Antonio Bay reefs have a lot of gaff top anglers are culling through to catch a few trout. Croaker are still small but growing, so the mid-coast croaker bite should improve over the next couple of weeks. Estes Flats and other shallow grass flats are producing scattered redfish on live shrimp and cut bait. Even on the lower coast, anglers are covering water trying to stay on fish. Southeast of Long Bar, around the causeways and Mexiquita Flats have given up fish on live shrimp under a mauler or rattling float. This Memorial Day weekend, both Saturday and Sunday have a double tide schedule of 2 high and 2 low tides each day. I'm Bill Olson, and I'll see you on the coast.
Bobber's down, bobber's down, bobber's down. Take up the slack, got him. What have we got here on the dam? Oh, another good one. Good crappie. All right, one more for the live well, ladies and gentlemen. All right, well, here's one more quick little tip for you on how you can find them in this transition time headed into the summer warm weather months. Look behind me. See that? That's the dam. Don't overlook dams and rock ripraps. They provide a perfect slope, perfect depth for those crappie to roam up and down and feed before it gets really too hot. Plus, even when it gets too hot, they can just keep pulling out deeper and deeper and deeper. Dams and riprap, just like this one, are perfect for catching good crappie during these summer months. Stay with us. We're coming back for more from Navarro Mills in Central Texas, teaching you how to catch pre-summer crappie.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Costa Sunglasses. See what's out there. By Luz, setting a new standard in fishing performance. Feel the difference. By Strike King Lures, #1 in fishing. By Lowrance Electronics, find, navigate, dominate. And by Whataburger, get your day started at Whataburger with the new jalapeno cheddar biscuit.
There's one. What do we got? Oh, big black one. Look at that. Beautiful. All right. Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're on Fox Sports Outdoors today. Doing a little crappie fishing. That'll be a keeper right there. Look at the dark color on that fish right there. What a gorgeous fish. That one hit a little Bobby Garland baby shad, and that's an electric chicken color, by the way. I love that color. And let's talk about another way to catch these suspended fish. We're talking about catching fish that have already spawned, moving back out towards their deep summertime water where they're going to stay all during the hot weather. What's going to happen though is they'll suspend between the top and the bottom. They can be difficult to catch when they do that. Now I showed you earlier that you can suspend that bait at a controlled depth with a slip bobber rig, and that way you know exactly how deep that you're running. Or you can just use a little light crappie bait like this one that I showed you, and you can throw it out there on as long a cast as you can make with a light jig. Count it down. Count it about 6 or 7 seconds down, and then give it a slow, steady retrieve. And that'll keep that bait suspended between the top and the bottom. When they're out there just feeding on shad like this, that's what they'll do, suspend up. And if you're not clued into that, You'll be fishing on the bottom, you'll be fishing below the fish, you won't get a bite. Keep that in mind, fish for those suspended fish, and you can see them on your graph when they're doing that as well. Find out where the bait is, you'll find where the crappie are. Hey, let's get you some more fishing reports. So let's go to Oklahoma. Here's Gary Dollahan with your fishing reports from there for this week.
Hey, I had the opportunity this week to do something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Fish the Canadian River below the Lake Eufaula Dam by airboat. The invitation came from my friends Mike Taylor and Mark Baldridge of Okmulgee. Mark's the one that owns the airboat. He's fallen in love with this type of fishing. Here's what Mark says about it.
I fell in love with fishing the river because I just call it hole hopping. I'll go from hole to hole when they have the water off, and you catch a variety of fish, stripers, sand bass, spotted bass, and crappie at certain times of year. And really, the only access you can actually have is with an airboat.
There's approximately 25 miles of river between the dam and the Arkansas River, and that's the stretch that we were fishing in. Obviously, the airboat advantage is the fact that you can navigate through the skinniest of water. In fact, if you have a literally wet sand surface, you can navigate over that, allowing us to go from pool to pool down that stretch of the river. We caught good numbers of striper throughout the day, most of them in the pound to about 2.5 pound range. We did have a few that would go in the 8 to 10 pound range. Man, it was fun. But along with the stripers, we also caught several other species. We caught some really nice crappie, we caught some big old white bass, we caught a number of spotted bass, and we also caught one walleye. Obviously, as long as Mark has been fishing this river system, he has his technique down to a science. He prefers using a wide pearl, sassy shad type soft plastic swim bait rigged on a 1/4 ounce round jig head. Make long casts up into the pool and then use the reel for a steady retrieve back in, occasionally giving that rod tip some jerks and also stopping the retrieve to change up the action a little bit. Now, Mike and I experimented a little bit more. We caught a good number of fish also on the Bobby Garland stroller and also on the LaRue Sweet Swimmer, which are also swim type baits, which seem to be the key to this type of fishing. Mike and Mark, thanks again for the invitation. It was a great trip, absolutely wonderful. I hope all of you have a chance to experience it, but one thing about it, you can't catch them if you don't go.
There he is. Oh, big black one, big black one. Look at that big dude. Ha ha! All right, well, we are catching them. Look at that. Big old black, beautiful crappie right there. We've had a good day today. All right, slip right back down here to that dam, just like we talked about. Free swimming, little crappie jig. They're biting well. Stay with us. When we come back, we've got your sunglasses winner on the Costa Catch of the Week. Somebody wins free Costa sunglasses. We've got your Ask the Pro answer to your fishing questions via Twitter and much more. Don't go anywhere.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Exide AGM Marine Batteries. Starts like new, stays like new longer. By Gene LaRue and Bobby Garland Lures. With our baits, a good day of fishing is in the bag. By Motor Guide, trolling motors engineered for anglers. And by Nitro Performance Fishing Boats. Welcome to the big leagues.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time now for our Whataburger Ask the Pro question, your chance for advice from professional anglers. This week, David asks, when should you use a football jig? For the answer, we checked with 4-time Bassmaster Classic champion Kevin Van Dam.
Football jigs have become really popular, and there's a reason for that. You know, if you're casting a jig and you want to keep good bottom contact, the design of that football head doesn't allow that hook to roll, and it makes a lot of noise down there with that head banging against the rocks, kicking up the mud and things like that. So if you want to cast a jig in deep water and drag it on the bottom and have a good feel of what's down there, there's nothing better than a football jig. That design is not going to let that hook tip over. It's going to, every time it comes up to a hard object, it makes the back of the jig stand up, so it has more action, more liveliness than a standard jig, and is going to be a great tool for deep water. The downfall with a football jig is typically they have a lighter wire hook and a softer weed guard, and that's designed for those long casts that you make with it when you're fishing in deep water to get a better hooking percentage in the fish. So if you're fishing in really heavy cover and things like that, that's where a flipping jig comes into play. You know, it's got a head design designed to penetrate cover, it's got a heavier hook in it, typically a heavier weed guard, and it's going to be better for that situation.
Thanks, Kevin. If you have a question to ask one of the pros, go to our website, follow the Ask the Pro link, and send us your information. Now let's find out which big fish photo wins someone a brand new pair of Costa sunglasses on the Costa Catch of the Week.
This week on the Costa Catch of the Week contest, we've got a 2-for-1 special. 2 big bass from Lake Ray Roberts in North Texas. Congratulations to Ryan Haddish of Keller, Texas, showing a 13.2 and an 11.4 largemouth, both caught at Ray Roberts. These win a brand new pair of Costa sunglasses, and here are some bonus pictures from Ray Roberts. These aren't winners in the contest, but they're huge bass nonetheless. Ryan's dad, Kenneth, is shown with a 9-pound, 2-ounce largemouth. Cody Buchanan has a 12.4 largemouth. Sandy Huckabee caught one weighing 11.1, and Glenn Trowbridge caught an 8.5, again, all from Lake Ray Roberts. If you would like to enter the Costa Catch of the Week contest, go to our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com. On the right-hand side of the front page, click on the Costa Catch of the Week box, follow the instructions, send us your big fish photo. You can win a free pair of Costas. You can see all of the Costa frame and lens styles at their website. Go back to the front page at foxsportsoutdoors.com, click on the Costa logo, and there you can see all of the frame and lens styles, including the frames I was wearing on this week's episode called Brine. Next up on the Academy Sports and Outdoors Right Stuff feature, it's the right gear to catch big crappie like we caught on this week's show while they're in this transition period. It begins with a swimming bait. If you'd like to just cast that out and reel it back in, this is a 1/24 ounce Bobby Garland Mo-Glo jig head with a baby shad swimmer body on the back. You just throw it out and reel it back in on a slow, steady retrieve. Then for the slip bobber rig, it all begins with a little piece of twine tied on your line to act as a bobber stop, followed by the actual sliding slip bobber, and then we used a little heavier 1/16 ounce Mo-Glo jig head with a Bobby Garland slab slayer body, kind of an orange color with a chartreuse tail. I've got a lot of sympathy for a lot of families who have struggled mightily over the last few years in a very difficult economy. They've had so much trouble paying their bills. They've dug themselves deeper and deeper into debt with seemingly no way out. A few years ago, I ran into some material from a man named Dave Ramsey. You might have seen him on television and radio or on some videos. I actually lived by Dave Ramsey financial principles before I ever read any of his books or saw any of his videos. Dave guarantees that if you live by these financial principles, you'll not only be able to pay your bills, but at the end of your career, you'll have a nice little nest egg to retire on. So, you might want to look up some of Dave Ramsey's books or videos or listen to his radio or television shows. I've known several families who have followed those principles and become financially healthy in a relatively short period of time. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed our trip today to beautiful Navarro Mills Lake on a very windy day in central Texas. Hopefully we showed you some principles that will help you catch some crappie in this transition period headed into the warm summertime months. Be sure and join us for our show next week. We will be on Thursday at 10:30 p.m. and Saturday morning at 7:30. Until next week, I'm Barry Stokes saying be safe, have fun. Bye-bye, y'all.